You know, claim denials at skilled nursing facilities are just a constant headache. It's so frustrating, right? You provide the care, your team documents everything meticulously, and yet somehow claims still get rejected. Well, in this explainer, we're going to decode exactly why that keeps happening, and more importantly, how a completely new approach is changing the entire game. So let's dive in. And that quote right there, that's the whole secret. Claim denials are not just some random bit of bad luck. They are predictable. And if they're predictable, that means they're preventable. They leave a trail of clues, almost like breadcrumbs, and the trick is learning how to see them before you ever hit submit on a claim. So what is this pattern? Let's pull back the curtain a little bit. Why do so many claims that seem perfectly valid, for care that was absolutely necessary and provided really well, end up failing? Let's break it down.
I mean, this is the question that probably keeps you up at night. You've done the work, your team is dedicated, but the whole revenue cycle just feels broken. It feels unfair, and honestly, it's incredibly costly.
And here's the absolute truth of it. The problem isn't your care, it's your data. We're talking about small, often invisible errors, little inconsistencies, and documentation gaps that trigger these automatic rejections from payers.
All right, so let's get into the first major root cause, and it's a big one: gaps in your clinical documentation. This is where the whole story of a patient's care can just completely unravel in the eyes of a payer.
Just look at this list for a second. It could be anything from a weak justification for medical necessity to something as simple as copy-paste notes that don't have enough patient-specific detail. Payers use algorithms that spot these things instantly, like, inconsistent notes between the therapy and nursing departments, or therapy minutes that just don't add up with the billing. Any one of these can sink a claim.
Okay, here's a classic example. A nurse documents that a patient is too tired for any activity, but then a therapist, maybe on the very same day, documents a full session. To a payer software, that's not a nuance. That is an immediate red flag. It's a conflict, an inconsistency, and bam, automatic denial.
And let's be real, trying to manually catch every single discrepancy like that across thousands of clinical entries is pretty much impossible. Errors are going to slip through. But an AI system, it can read everything in real time, connecting all the dots between departments and flagging those conflicts before they ever turn into a costly denial.
So it's not just about what you write down. The second major reason for denials is all about your workflow. Let's talk about process errors.
Think of these as the administrative tripwires: a single missing physician signature, a certification that expired last week, or a simple mistake in the prior authorization. Any of these can invalidate the entire claim, no matter how perfect the clinical documentation is.
This one is brutal. If that prior authorization isn't active and perfectly lined up with the services you're providing, the payer just says, nope, that service is non-covered, and that means you get zero reimbursement. It's a simple process error with a huge financial punch.
I mean, trying to track hundreds of these things on spreadsheets, it's just a recipe for disaster. You're going to have missed deadlines and human error. But an AI-powered system totally automates this. It tracks every single authorization, matches it to the care being delivered, and alerts you before a non-covered service is ever provided.
Okay, so we've laid out the problems, right? The documentation gaps, the process failures. Now for the good part, the actual solution. This is all about making a shift. Moving from a reactive model where you're just appealing denials to a proactive one where you're preventing them from ever happening in the first place.
It works in this really simple but powerful four-step loop. The AI is constantly scanning all of your data: clinical notes, billing codes, authorizations, you name it. It identifies the risks, it alerts your team with specific, easy fixes, and this is the crucial part: it learns from every near miss to stop those same denial patterns from ever happening again.
So what does all this really mean for your facility's bottom line? Let's talk about the tangible, real-world impact on your revenue.
And this is what you really need to hear. This isn't just about reducing some administrative headaches. The vast majority of these denials are absolutely preventable. We're talking about protecting significant revenue that facilities are just losing right now to errors that are totally correctable.
I mean, this chart says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got a high, costly denial rate with the old manual processes, and on the right, a dramatically lower rate with AI automation. The system just catches the errors that humans physically can't, and that leads to a much, much healthier revenue cycle. So what's the outcome? It's pretty clear. You get far fewer denials, which means you get paid faster. When an audit does pop up, you're ready to go instantly because your documentation is clean and all in one place. It all just adds up to long-term sustainable protection for your revenue.
So we'll end with this thought. The patterns, the reasons for every single one of your denials, they are already sitting right there inside your own data. The real question is, do you have the tools to actually listen to what your data is trying to tell you?